All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make the vent cover, and I just did this, and I'm going to make another one. So let's start a new drawing. So I'll go new, and then I'm just going to, when I do the new, I'm just going to do the default ACAD. All right, and so what I'm going to do here is I'm looking at this vent cover, and it's really tricky because I can see that it's an oval. I also see that it's got this weird worm-like object, but there's doesn't seem like there's a lot of information, but I do see some things. So I'm going to just go ahead and use what it gives me. So the first thing I'm going to do, just because I can, is I'm going to make this overall oval shape. And so the way that you do that is you go ahead and select the oval, which is an ellipse. I'm going to click center. And then it's asking me, so I'm going to read the command line below the center. I'm a 0, 0 kind of guy, so I'm going to type in 0, 0, enter, and then it's asking me for the endpoint. And so if this is an ellipse, it's going to be, I see it's 8 inches overall on my X, so I'll type in 4. And then it wants to know what the height is of this. So it says that it is 5, I think, 5. So I'll type in 2.5. Let's see what we have, 2.5. And then to center everything, the easiest thing I'll do is just do go ahead and select the top, and that'll recenter everything. All right, so what I can do is I can double check my measurements. What I've done in my snap settings beforehand is I'll go ahead and have my polar on, the object snap, typically have my midpoint on, and then the tangent, perpendicular, extension also are kind of a default that I always use. So let's just go ahead here. So what I would do then is when I'm doing the dimension, if you don't see it there, I can just go over the center and then come to the right. All right, follow the extension line out, snap there, and do the same over here. Snap at that intersection, and sure enough, it's 8. So, I think what I'm going to do here is, because I know that it's in hundredths and I don't want all this having to do it later, let's just go ahead and select. I want to change my dimension style. So let's go to dimension style. Let's just be done with this. Set current, modify. I think I need to make this a little bit bigger. Let's try 1.5. I can always adjust it later. And then the primary units is going to be a tenths hundredths, and then say OK, and then close. So that looks good. That might be a little big, but I think it's close enough. All right. So then let's do verify the other dimension, the 5-inch. So I'll go to dimension. I can't click on it, so what I'll do is I'll go to the center, come up, select that, come to the center. I'm not snapping yet, and click at that intersection, and then extend that out. All right, so that looks good. Now let's go ahead, and I'm just kind of working with what they give me first. So I know there's a center circle here, and it gives me the diameter. So I'll go to center diameter, 0, 0, enter, and then I'll type in 1.5 as the diameter. All right, so far, so good. I have a habit of, if I'm trying to replicate the drawing, I'll just dimension it as I go along. That way I can verify everything too, so that looks good. And I'm getting really annoyed, so let's go ahead and let's just change the dimension style. I'm going to make that back to set current, modify. Let's go ahead and just make that fit. Let's just make it 1.2. Let's see how that looks. All right. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so now let's go ahead then, and still don't really nervous about tackling this thing. So why don't I go ahead and make this 6-sided object here, which is a polygon. So I'll select the polygon. I'm going to count. It has 6 sides. Enter. I need to know the center. And if I look here, it says it's 3 inches and it's on the 0, 0. So I'll go ahead and type in the center, 0, 3. And then now I know that looking over here, it's 1 inch. And believe it or not, that's going to be the radius. So I'll say circumscribed about. And then the radius, I'll type in 0.5. All right, oopsie, let's do that again. So wrong axis. So let's go ahead and do that again. So polygon, X is at 0. Thought that's what I did. So sides is at 6. Enter, center, X should be at, I'm sorry, X is at 3. Y is at 0. All right, so we all make mistakes. And then circumscribed about, and we said the radius is 0.5. Okay, cool. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and verify the dimension though. So I'll go to the center and let's do the center of this. 3 inches. All right, so that looks good. All right, so I'm still really nervous about this. So let's go ahead and just kind of see what we have. What dimensions are here that I know I can work with? I see, this is really hard because I see these little these circles, but it all is extended off of this larger radius, which is 0.75. And I see that the center of that radius, the 0 for this, is actually at 0.75 minus 0.75 down, and I see there's 1 inch here, and so it's going to be, let's see, the center is going to be at, on the X is going to be at 1 inch, and on the Y it's going to be minus 0.75. Well, they are tricky on this, all right? So let's go ahead then, let's make a circle. I'm gonna go circle radius. And then on the X, I said is going to be, the center is 1 inch. So I'll type in 1, comma, and then the center is here at minus 0.75. So minus 0.75. Minus 0.75. What's tricky about this is it's not symmetrical. Like if it was symmetrical, being that it'd be minus 1, comma 1 or something like that, but it's at X is at 1 and then Y is at minus 0.75. And then the radius, I'm just working with it. What it gives me, it says it's 0.75. So I'll type in 0.75, enter. All right. So let's just verify some of this. So what I'm going to do, because I don't really see the center, I'm going to go ahead and put in the center mark. So let's go to center mark. Go ahead and select that. So there it is. So let's just verify that dimension. So let's go ahead and go to dimension. I'm going to start at my 0 here. So I could just type in 0, 0 or snap on the center. And then I'm going to snap on the center of this one. And let's just see if I did that right. So 0.75. Yeah, it looks good. If I want to get rid of this 0, even though I have the other tolerances, what you do is you just click onto it, and I'm just going to go ahead and type in 0.75. So that way it's going to be the same. Oh. So, all right, so 0.75. So that's good. Let's check the other dimension then. And let's drag this down. And then if I want to do the same text, I would simply just move this over if I'm into that. All right, so there we go. So, all right, so I'm okay so far. This circle is a little confusing, so why don't I do this? I'm going to just go ahead. Let's make these other circles. So if that is in fact the center mark, and it's telling me that the overall, we said that this overall radius was 0.75, then if I'm taking, it says its radius is 0.25, so then this has to be at ½ an inch, and then the other outside one has to be at 1 inch. So let's go ahead and make some more circles. Center radius, and you know, I could just snap to here for the center mark, and then I'm going to go ahead and type in for the radius, let's do 0.5, enter, and then because I already have that command, I can just push enter again, and it'll give me the same one. So I'll go ahead and select the same center, and then I'll type in 1. All right, so a lot of circles going on here. So why don't I do this? I'm going to zoom in, and let's go ahead and trim this. All right, so let's trim this, push enter. And you know what? I'm going to have to, before I trim it, I'm going to have to put a line on here because it's not going to trim to that dimension line. That's okay. So let's put a line on here. This is a little construction line. All right. I'm going to pull this off so I've got the right gap for my dimension. All right, so let's do the trim again. Now, if we get more proficient, what we will be doing is actually putting the dimension on a separate layer, so I can just turn them off. All right, so that looks good. All right, so believe it or not, I'm good. Now, I really don't know where these centers are, but it gives me a little clue here. It's telling me that at this point right here, the center of that circle is at 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to be lazy. I'm going to snap here, and I'm going to point my mouse in the direction and type in 0.25 and press enter. All right. And so then let's go ahead again, just make it easy on myself. It says that circle is 0.25 radius. So I could just snap here and verify that. Sure enough, that's what it is. And let's go ahead and trim that. All right, and I don't need this one anymore. It's actually in my way. And then you see that there's a little center mark. Oh, you know what? I didn't do that right. I was pretty close. Let's just hold that thought. All right, let's just we can easily fix that. 0.25, and then we'll do another 0.25 because it's 0.25. All right, and then let's type in move, M for move. Select this point here and snap it right there. All right, now let's verify that because I got a little crazy there. Before I do that, you see it's got the center mark, so let's go center mark and let's put that on there. And now let's verify that dimension. All right, sure enough, looks good. All right, so far so good. To make it easy on myself, what I'm going to do is, rather than try to reconstruct that, I'm just going to go ahead and mirror this, M-I-R-R-O-R. Let's see if we can do it this way. I can copy, let's try to just mirror this. All right, and so select the objects, and now wants to know the first point. Let's go ahead and use the center line and see if that works. All right, so and let's go ahead and put it on there. All right, pretty cool. And then do I want to erase the source one? No. All right, so that's good. I don't need this dimension, so let's go ahead and delete that. So, you know, believe it or not, that is, I think, the most challenging part, what we just did there. And everything looks good, but, you know, again, we just want to make sure that before I start mirroring and copying this, let's just make sure we got all verification before we get a little too crazy. So let's go the other 0.25 that we need. I actually could have kept that dimension with the center of this. Move that out. That looks good. Let's put the verifying again. I'm just verifying everything. Let's get this radius here. 0.75. That looks good. Let's do this radius here. 0.25. That looks good. It appears that I have all the dimensions I need to move on. And so again, I think this was the hardest part, realizing that I just needed to make sure I knew where my center of this was. So then let's clean this up a little bit. 0.75. All right, let's take it off the center mark a little bit. Make sure I have that gap. I'm just copying here, so everything looks pretty good. All the dimensions are accurate. I feel confident that I can move on. So now it's just a matter of mirroring this object. But you know what? The thing is, when I mirror, I don't have to select this every time. And it also, just to make sure everything is actually built properly, I'm going to go ahead and type in join. And I'm going to grab these pieces right here. And let's just make sure if this is built correctly, meaning that it's trimmed properly and such, I can just join it, and sure enough, it's one object. So that helps me in a couple of ways, because one, I verified that it's constructed properly and there's no gaps. And then secondly, it'll be much easier for me to mirror it. So let's go ahead, rather than copy or try to, obviously I wouldn't want to have to rebuild that. Let's go ahead and mirror that. And so how I will do that, the magic word mirror, or I could come up here to the ribbon above, select the object, push enter, reading the first point. I'm just going to go ahead and type in 0, 0 because I know that's the center, and push enter, and then I can just either manually rotate it or type it in, but I'll just Do I want to delete the source objects? No. All right, so let's do enter mirror again. This time I'm going to select these two, push enter. Let's do the 0, 0 again, type in 0, 0. You're always best if you can type it. And then, and let's go ahead and do that. Do I want to delete? Nope. I think I am almost, believe it or not, I've got the bulk of this done. So there's a couple things I need to do now. Let's go ahead and I'm going to mirror this dimension over here. Just let's see what happens if I do that. All right, so I should have mirrored that while I was at it. So let's do that. So I'm going to type in mirror, select the item that this hexagon, this polygon, excuse me. And let's go to my 0. All right, do I delete? Nope. All right, that looks good. Let's verify this dimension. Probably should have verified this before. All right, looks good. All right, so let's do the line weights. And in order to do the line weights properly, what I need to make sure I'm doing is, let's go over here, make sure my line weight is selected. It is. Come down here, turn it on. I'm going to select the objects that I made because they actually go through this part. And because I join these, I just have to click it, snap onto it, and then let's right click. I can either try quick properties, but in these kind of shapes, you'll notice it won't say line weight. So what I'm going to do then is I could go to the menu. The other thing I can do is just go properties, line weight, and I'll go ahead and select 0.5 millimeter. And let's get rid of that. So that looks good. Hit escape. Everything looks pretty good here. Believe it or not, I am all done with this. So all I would need to do now is just verify of all my dimensions, and then I would print it out and I would be all done. So I'm right now, before I stop this, I'm just verifying that I have all the correct dimensions, which it looks like I do. So I am going to finish the vent cover and I'm going to stop the recording. All right, so looks good.